long ago, in the northern regions of Japan, there lived an old man who had bought barren land for the future of his descendants. He tirelessly toiled on the land, regardless of harsh winters, scorching summers, or stormy weather. He never slackened. Finally, after dedicating his entire life to cultivating the barren land and planting crops, the old man passed away. However, his son did not follow in his footsteps. Instead, the son became engrossed in drinking and neglected the farming duties. As a result, every night, a monster would appear in the fields. This creature had only one eye and would loudly cry,
"Return my land! Return my land!"
in a haunting, mournful voice. This creature was known as the Neuroregion. The Neuroregion had a distinctive feature. It had only 3 fingers. According to the Japanese literary scholar Abe Shroku, humans have 5 fingers, with 2 representing virtues, 3 representing negative thoughts, namely anger, greed, and ignorance. The Neuroregion, with its 3 remaining fingers, was believed to have transformed from these negative thoughts. According to one version of the legend, it is said that after the hardworking old farmer passed away, his son indulged in a life of pleasure and left the fields neglected. The old man's resentment transformed into the Neuroregion, which urged his lazy son to take up farming again. There is another version that differs slightly from the previous legend. Farmers were forced to leave the land and were unable to make a living. Open resistance would lead to rest. As a result, a large number of farmers gradually became homeless, and some even committed suicide. After entering the Showa era, there was a saying that the resentment of these farmers turned into trouble in the mud field. There is another version that differs slightly from the previous legend. It tells of a diligent elderly farmer who, after a life of hard work, fell seriously ill and passed away. He left behind only his wastrel son, who wasted his days sleeping and drinking. His family had been quite poor, and the only legacy the old farmer left was a few acres of land he had painstakingly cultivated. However, his lazy son rarely worked the land, preferring to sell the family's possessions for alcohol. Eventually, he had no choice but to sell the neglected fields in order to prevent his hard-earned family legacy from being squandered by his son. The old farmer, now transformed into a yokai, would appear whenever his son shirked his duties. He would sternly demand that his son return to the fields and work. The Neuroregion's appearance was a reminder of the consequences of laziness and neglect. The Neuroregion is not a guardian spirit of the fields, but rather the manifestation of the restless souls of farmers who, in desperation, turn to wandering spirits. According to local accounts in Fukui Prefecture, encountering the Neuroregion in the dead of night while passing by a field alone was a common and airy experience. The shadowy figure resembled an old farmer or a monk, and upon being spotted, the Neuroregion would loudly cry out,
"Return my land! Return my land!"
while throwing clumps of mud at the passerby. These mud clumps were said to emit an unpleasant odor that would linger for 3 days, leaving an enduring reminder of the encounter. This spiritual object, its fragrance can be smelled for hundreds of miles when a dead body is on the ground. Smelling the air brings it back to life. As the name implies, the resurrection incense is a spiritual item that has the power to bring back souls. It is said that those who have died from an epidemic can be revived by fumigating them with the resurrection incense. In the smoke of this incense, one can also witness the appearance of those who have passed away. When the resurrection incense is lit, its fragrance can spread for hundreds of miles. Even corpses buried underground, upon smelling the fragrance, can come back to life. This is a remarkable account of the resurrection incense found in the record of the 10 continents. Although it may be embellished in the legend, the extraordinary effect of the incense in halting decay and regenerating flesh is indeed unmatched by any medicine. Actually, the earliest legend of the resurrection incense can be traced back to ancient China. It is said that Emperor Wu burned the resurrection incense to bring Lady Li back to life. According to the legend, Emperor Wu The Han Dynasty had a beloved concubine named Lady Li. She was renowned for her beauty, grace, and exceptional talent in music, singing, and dancing. However, she tragically ended up in unfortunate circumstances. Her brother, Li Yannian, served in the imperial palace as a musician, specializing in court music. One day, Li Yannian sang for Emperor Wu of the Han Dynasty.
北方有家人，绝世独立，一个情人城，在故情人国。 宁不知情深与情薄，家人难再得。
Emperor Wu of the Han Dynasty, upon hearing this, asked, "Is there truly such a remarkably beautiful woman?" So, Li Yannian introduced his sister, Lady Li, to Emperor Wu. When Emperor Wu first laid eyes on Lady Li, he was deeply captivated by this peerless beauty, who resembled a celestial being, possessed skin like jade, and excelled in song and dance. In this manner, Lady Li became deeply favored by Emperor Wu of the Han Dynasty. After spending several years in the palace, she gave birth to a son. However, due to her delicate health and postpartum complications, he fell seriously ill and, before long, passed away. Emperor Wu of the Han Dynasty was heartbroken. To the point of despair, he accorded her the burial rites of a queen and laid her to rest at Maling. He also commissioned artists to create a portrait of Lady Li, which he hung in Genquan Palace. Every day, he would linger before the painting, grieving deeply for her. Coincidentally, during this time, the Western region Su presented the resurrection incense as a tribute. However, the resurrection incense had the power to revive only those who had died within 3 days. Lady Li had been gone for a considerable amount of time. However, due to Emperor Wu's profound longing for her, he decided to take the risk and make an attempt. As he lit the resurrection incense, the fragrance grew stronger, and a gentle breeze began to rustle in the bedroom. Accompanied by faint tinkling sounds, Emperor Wu was overcome with excitement. He exclaimed loudly, "Beloved consort, have you returned? I can hear the sound of your dancing attire." Lady Li's spirit wept and replied, "Your servant's physical form has already decayed, so I can only return in spirit. However, your majesty's dragon spirit is too powerful, and I can only dance for you from behind the screen." Emperor Wu of the Han Dynasty ordered a splendid screen to be brought in. In this way, Lady Li, with tears in her eyes, sang the beloved song once again for Emperor Wu. This is the story depicted in the painting by bird and flower artist Nishiyama Isaki, the tale of Emperor Wu's attempt to summon the spirit of his beloved Lady Li is a poignant and enduring legend from Chinese history. It's interesting to note that the Japanese initially did not know about the extraordinary properties of the resurrection incense. Someone in Kyoto lit the incense, and the result, those who had been dead for 3 days all came back to life, and the fragrant scent did not cease for 3 days, led to a catastrophic conflict between the living and the departed souls. This illustrates the potential consequences of such a powerful and mysterious substance. In ancient times, there was a woman named Kyoheim. She fell in love with a monk ensign who stayed at her home and went to Kumano to pay homage to the Bodhisattva. As a monk, Ensign was willing to serve the Buddha all his life, so he deceived Kyoheim and said he would come back to her after paying homage to the Bodhisattva. But then, Ensign left King Ji resolutely, and there was no news about her departure. King Ji was furious when she learned that he had been cheated, but for the sake of her beloved, she still traveled thousands of miles to pursue Ensign. She slept in the open, endured hunger and suffered a lot, and finally caught up with Ensign. But when Ensign saw King Ji, who no longer looked like a human being or a ghost. Anson was so frightened that he ran away, and Kingji chased him all the way angrily. Kyoheim transformed into half-human and half-demon and continued to chase him. The two of them chased each other to the Hidaka River. Anson crossed a big river first. Anson ran to Daochang Temple. Anson explained the whole story to the monks and begged them to take him in. The monks asked Anson to hide in the big bell. At this time, Kyoheim chased her to the river and the boat was gone. She was anxious and angry and jumped into the river. She turned into a big snake and continued to chase him ashore and into Daochang Temple. The big snake turned by Kyoheim was frantically looking for Anson inside and outside the temple, destroying the temple to a great extent. Even the eminent monks in the temple could not deal with the snake. Finally, Kyoheim discovered that Anson was hiding in the big bell, but the bell was very sturdy, so Kyoheim clung to it. She spits out fire from her mouth, burning the big bell red, burning Anson to death together with the bell, and then she herself sank into the river and committed suicide. If you can't live together with the one you love, then you will die together. Maybe Kyoheim turned into a monster. Because of such paranoid thoughts, there are many versions of the legend about the Daochang Temple bell. Most of them are similar to Kyoheim's story, but there is one legend that is very different. It can be regarded as another source of the Daochang Temple bell. Legend has it that at the end of the Nara period, Emperor Kenmu decided to move the capital from Hyakki to Nagasaki and was appointed as the new capital. The general commander of architectural planning is Fujiwara Tanetsugu. However, when the emperor was about to leave, he unexpectedly received news that Fujiwara Tanetsugu had been assassinated and died. The emperor was very angry and ordered civil and military officials to work hard to find out the truth and capture the real culprit. After rigorous investigation and questioning, the truth about the incident soon came to light. The mastermind was also brought to justice. However, Emperor Kenmu was not happy because it was beyond the surprise of the entire court. The mastermind turned out to be Emperor Kenmu's younger brother, the Crown Prince, Prince Zara. And when things have reached this point, even if Emperor Kenmu wants to excuse his brother, he may not be able to convince the civil and military officials, so he deposed his younger brother from the throne and imprisoned him in a temple called Daochang Temple. The imprisoned Prince Zara couldn't bear this kind of life. He shouted that he was wronged all day long and went on a hunger strike. When he got tired of shouting, he cried to an ancient bell in the temple that had a history of hundreds of years. After struggling like this for a long time, he seemed to have changed into a different person. His clothes were messy, his hair was unkempt, and his eyes were dazed. He no longer had the strength to cry. He just hugged the ancient bell every day, muttering and crying silently. The emperor decided to send him to a Waji. However, the weak prince could not withstand the long journey. He died of hatred on the way. Therefore, according to a popular saying in Japan at the time, people who had certain obsessions during their lifetime would turn into ghosts after death to fulfill their wishes before death. Sure enough, after Prince Zara died, his resentment turned into a ghost and possessed Daochang Temple on that ancient bell that contained all his hatred and grievances during his lifetime, and also carried his soul after death. So he often attacked people passing by in the middle of the night. After killing them, he also sucked their souls into the bell. At the same time, he kept cursing Emperor Kenmu's family. Soon, Emperor Kenmu's biological mother and the empress died one after another. The Ice Shrine also suffered a fire. Epidemics broke out across the country, and the Prince Enden, also fell seriously ill. Emperor Kenmu panicked and quickly called on Miyagi to see what was going on. After divining these changes, Miyagi came to the conclusion of Prince Zara is causing trouble. Oh, appease his grievances. Emperor Kenmu ordered people to renovate Prince Zara's tomb. On the day of the tomb repair, the wind howled and the rain poured heavily in Kyoto. After that, Kyoto gradually calmed down. Due to the impact of this matter, Emperor Kenmu finally gave up his plan to move the capital to Nagaka and moved it to Hyakki. However, shortly after moving to Hyakki, Prince Annen's concubine passed away. Mount Fuji also suddenly erupted. Emperor Kanmu finally became seriously ill and became bedridden and soon passed away. Today, the tomb of Prince Zara is enshrined at the Kamigure Shrine in Kyoto. These stories were gradually omitted in later generations. People only remember that the Dao Changji Bell was a monster transformed into a temple bell, specializes in attacking people who are lost during the journey. He often goes to the mountains at night, turned into a temple to attract lost people to stay. Hen in the middle of the night, while people are sleeping, turn the guest into a monk. Once they become a monk, they will forget what they did before and be confused all day long. Only know knocking on wooden fish.
道場人の鐘